Girl, that is not a good enough reason to marry someone who mysteriously had their wife die. Welcome. Last week, I had the announcement of a October readathon, the haunted library for a Libraryathon, and this week I have some recommendations for the prompts. So our first prompt is thriller mystery, and I've picked out 3 books on my shelves. I haven't read any of them. They could fit this prompt. So the first one is Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. I got this from Book of the Month back in March. I am very behind on my Book of the Month. It's kind of sad and pathetic. This is an option and a quick synopsis here. What if you thought you murdered your best friend? And if everyone else thought so too? And what if the truth doesn't matter? Lucy and Sabby were the golden girls of their small Texas town. Pretty, smart, and enviable. Lucy married a dream guy with a big ring and an even bigger new home. Sabby was the social butterfly, loved by all, and if you believe the rumors, especially popular with men in town. But after Lucy is found wandering the streets, covered in her best friend Sabby's blood, everyone thinks she is a murderer. It's been years since that horrible night, a night Lucy can't remember anything about, and she has since moved to LA and started a new life. But now the phenomenally huge hit true crime podcast, Listen for the Lie, and its 2 good-looking hosts, Ben Owens, have decided to investigate Sabby's murder for the show's 2nd season. Lucy is forced to return to the place she vowed never to set foot in again to solve her friend's murder, even if she is the one who did it. The truth is out there if we just listen. So I kind of picked this one from Book of the Month back in March because of the podcast element. I really like podcast element in The Night Swim and then the subsequent one, Dark Corners. So this is what kind of intrigued me to pick this one. The second book recommendation I have is House of Glass by Sarah McKinnon. This is also a Book of the Month. This one was from July. Again, bad at reading my books here. Let's delve into this one, shall we? On the outside, they were the golden family with the perfect life. On the inside, they built their perfect life. I seem to have a thing for golden, perfect people, supposedly. You know, seems to be a trend so far. A young nanny who plunged to her death, or was she pushed? A little girl who collects sharp objects and refuses to speak. A lawyer whose job is to uncover who in the family is a victim and who is a murderer. But how can you find the truth when everyone here is lying? Rose Barclay is a 9-year-old girl who witnessed the possible murder of her nanny in the midst of her parents' bitter divorce and immediately stopped speaking. Stella Hudson is a best interest attorney appointed to serve as counsel for children in high-conflict custody cases. She never accepts clients under 13 due to her own traumatic childhood, but Stella's mentor, a reverend judge, believes Stella is the only one who can help. From the moment Stella passes through the iron security gate and steps into the gilded historic home of the Barclays, she realizes the case is even more twisted and the Barclay family far more troubled than she feared. And there's something eerie about the house itself. It's a plastic house, not a single bit of glass to be found. As Stella comes closer to uncovering the secrets, the Barclays are desperate to hide. Danger wraps around her like a shroud, and her past and present are set on a collision course in ways she never expected. Everyone is a suspect in the nanny's murder. The mother, the father, the grandmother, the nanny's boyfriend, even Rose. Is she the person Stella is supposed to protect, or is she the one that she may need protection from? Again, I think we can sense a trend in my reading here. People are murdered, we don't know who did it. I'm kind of into the murder mysteries, I'm not gonna lie. The third one that could fit the mystery thriller prompt is A Talent for Murder by Peter Swanson. I read 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson and really, really liked it. I actually scrapped a whole video on a spin-off of that because I wasn't interested in it anymore, but besides the point. I really did enjoy A Perfect Murder, so that's kind of why I ended up picking this Peter Swanson, which was June's pick for Book of the Month. And let's delve into this one. Also, you can see the little blood splashes there. Very, very on theme here. A newlywed librarian begins to suspect the man she's married is a murderer in the spectacularly twisty and deviously clever novel by best-selling author Peter Swanson. Martha Ratliff conceded long ago that she'd likely spend her life alone. She was fine with it, happy with her solo existence, stimulated by her work as a librarian in Maine. But then she met Alan, a charming and sweet-natured salesman whose job took him on the road for half the year. When he asked her to marry him, she said yes, even though he still felt like a bit of a stranger. Girl, red flag. A year in, and the marriage was good, except for that strange blood streak on the back of one of his shirts he'd worn to a conference in Denver. Red flag number 2. Her curiosity turning to suspicion, Martha investigates the cities Alan visited over the years and uncovers a disturbing pattern. 5 unsolved cases of murdered women. red flag numbers. Is she married to a serial killer, or could it merely be a coincidence? Unsure what to think, Martha contacts an old friend from graduate school for advice. Lily Kittner once helped Martha out of a jam with an abusive boyfriend and may have some insight. Intrigued, Lily offers to meet Alan to find out what kind of man he really is. But what Lily uncovers is more perplexing and wicked than they ever could have expected. Again, very intriguing. We're on the murder mystery thing. Again, that's just like a thing I'm really into, is murder mysteries. Prompt 2 takes place on Halloween. So I've gone and picked a few books, and now it doesn't have to take place exactly on Halloween, just kind of around Halloween as a reminder here. So I've pulled a few books. So the first one I have is The Hex by Aaron Sterling, and subsequently I have The Kiss Curse, also by Aaron Sterling. This is book 2 in the series. I've already read The Hex, but you know, if I'm gonna read this one, I can't recommend the second one if you guys haven't read the first one, you know? So let's read the premise of this Hex one. Oh my gosh, look, it's the bookmark. I've been looking for a bookmark like this for literally days, and I couldn't find one. Anyway, I left it in a book. Never mix vodka and witchcraft. Again, amazing first line. That's like one of the most iconic parts of this first chapter. 9 years ago, Vivian Jones nursed her broken heart like any young witch would. Vodka, weeping music, bubble baths, and a curse on the horrible boyfriend. Sure, Vivian knows she shouldn't use her magic this way, but with an orchid hayride scented candle on her hand, she isn't worried it will cause him any more than a bad hair day or two. This is until Rise Penn, hollow descendant of the town's ancestors, breaker of hearts, and annoyingly just as gorgeous as he always was, returns to Gravesglen, Georgia. What should be a quick trip to recharge the town's ley lines and make an appearance at the annual fall fair turns disastrously wrong. With one calamity after another striking Rise, Vivi realizes her silly little ex-hex may not have been so harmless after all. Suddenly, Gravesglen is under attack from murderous wind-up toys, a pissed-off ghost, and a talking cat with some interesting things to say. Vivi and Rise have to ignore their off-the-charts chemistry to work together to save the town and find a way to break the breakup curse before it's too late. I'm going to tell you why this one kind of reminds me of Halloween Town, which, side note, we're also having a Halloween Town watch-along, just so we all remember. So I really did enjoy this one. This is so cute, and I really did enjoy it. So, of course, I'd want to pick up the sequel, which picks up with Gwen Jones, which is one of the characters in this one. So I've come really excited to go ahead and continue on with the series, especially because I think the third one is supposed to come out here in October. The next one I have is Payback's a Witch. I kind of figured it was kind of appropriate. So shall we read it? Emmy Harlow is a witch, but not a very powerful one, in part because she hasn't been to the home of the magical town of Thistle Grove in years. Her self-imposed exile has a lot to do with a complicated family history and a desire to forge her own way in the world, and only the tiniest bit to do with Gareth Blackmore, heir to the most powerful magical family in town, and casual breaker of hearts and destroyer of dreams. Very mysterious. But when a spellcasting tournament for which her family serves as arbiter approaches, it turns out the pull of tradition and the truly impressive parental guilt trip that comes with it is strong enough to bring Emmy back. She's determined to do her familial duty, spend some quality time with her best friend, Lyndon Thorne, and then get back to her real life in Chicago. On her first night home, Emmy runs into Talia Aramov, all-around badass, adept in the darker magical arts, who is fresh off a bad breakup with Gareth Blackmore. Scandalous. Talia had let herself be charmed, only to discover that Gareth has been also seeing Lyndon, unbeknownst to either of them. What a man whore. And now she and Lyndon want revenge. Only one question stands: is Emmy in? But most concerning of all, why can't Emmy stop thinking about the terrifyingly competent, devastatingly gorgeous, wickedly charming Talia Aramov? So that's what really caught my attention with this. Also, I just love the cover, like the purple to pink ombre there. Oh, gorgeous. And then the last one I have for this one, I don't have a physical copy, but it is Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. I've heard a lot about this. I've seen it on shelves. I just haven't picked it up. I thought it sounded really appropriate for this readathon. Sally Skelton is the official newly minted Pumpkin Queen after a whirlwind courtship with her true love Jack, who Sally adores with every inch of her fabric seams. If only she could say the same for her new role as Queen of Halloween Town. Cast in the spotlight and cast with all sorts of queenly duties, Sally couldn't help but wonder if all she's done is trade her capacity under Dr. Finkelstein for a different, a bet gilded cage. But when Sally and Zero accidentally uncover a long hidden doorway to an ancient realm called Dreamtown in the forest hinterlands, she unknowingly sets into motion a chain of sinister events that puts her future as Pumpkin Queen and the future of Halloween Town itself into jeopardy. Could Sally discover what is meant to be true to herself and save the town she's learned to call home? Or will her future turn into her worst, well, nightmare? And I've kind of picked this one. I've seen it all over the shelves. 2, Halloween Town is also like such a magical place to me. Like, I watched The Nightmare before Christmas all the time. Like, it's one of my favorite movies. I'll admit I typically actually watch it closer to Christmas than Halloween, but I love it so much. Prompt 3 is books about books. And I do not have any physical copies for this one, but the first one. So for the first one, for books about books, I have The Book of Speculation by Erica Sweiler. I found this one on Libby a while back, and I just haven't found like a good time to read it, but like since we need to find a book about a book. Simon Watson, a young librarian, lives alone in a house that is slowly crumbling toward the Long Island Sound. His parents are long dead, his mother a circus mermaid who made her living by holding her breath, drowned in the very water his house overlooks. Very traumatic. Why do you still live there? His younger sister, Enola, ran off 6 years ago and now reads tarot cards for a traveling carnival. One June day, an old book arrives on Simon's doorstep, sent by an antiquarian bookseller who purchased it on speculation. Fragile and water damaged, the book is a log from the owner of a traveling carnival in the 1700s, who reports strange and magical things, including the drowning death of a circus mermaid. Since then, generations of mermaids in the Simons family have drowned, always on July 24th, which is only weeks away. As his friend Alice looks on with alarm, Simon becomes increasingly worried about his sister. Could there be a curse on Simon's family? What does it have to do with the book? And can he get to the heart of the mystery in time to save Enola? That's really what captured my attention, is that like we have a mysterious book, and it kind of reminds me, it gives me Starless Sea vibes. So if you guys have read Starless Sea, that's like a very heavy, like it's a dense book. It's like a heavy, dense read. This kind of reminds me of it, and I haven't read anything like that since I read the Starless Sea a few years ago. So that's really what caught my attention for this one. The next one I have is The Woman in the Library by Solari Gensel. The ornate reading room at the Boston Public Library is quiet until the tranquility is shattered by a woman's terrified scream. Security guards take charge immediately, instructing everyone inside to stay put until the threat is identified and contained. While they wait for the all clear, 4 strangers who happen to sit at the same table pass the time in conversation, and friendships are struck. Each has his or her own reasons for being in the reading room that morning. It just happens that one is a murderer. This one kind of gave me Breakfast Club vibes, and I like the Breakfast Club, so it's kind of like, ooh, I haven't watched the Breakfast Club in a really long time, so like a little vibe here. And then the third one I have for this is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. I actually did have a copy of this from Book of the Month when it came out, and I actually read it, you know, like a normal person would. And I have since sold it on Pango, but I thought I would share it here with you. Years ago, a reclusive mega best-selling children's author quit writing under mysterious circumstances. Suddenly he resurfaces with a brand new book in a one-of-a-kind competition, offering a prize that will change the winner's life in this absorbing and whimsical novel. Lucy Hart knows better than anyone what it's like to grow up without parents who loved her. In a childhood marked by neglect and loneliness, Lucy found her solace in books, namely the Clock Island series by Jack Masterson. Now a 26-year-old teacher's age, she is able to share her love of reading with bright young students, especially 7-year-old Christopher Lamb, left orphaned after the tragic death of his parents. Lucy would give anything to adopt Christopher, but even the idea of becoming a family seems like an impossible dream without proper funds and stability. Yes. Very hard to do that. Just when Lucy is about to give up, Jack Masterson announces he's finally written a new book. Even better, he's holding a contest on his private island where 4 hand-picked readers will compete to win the only copy. At age 13, Lucy fled her unhappy home and showed up on Jack Masterson's doorstep, hoping to live with her favorite author. 13 years later, a sky blue envelope arrives with Lucy's name on it, postmarked Clockwork Island. For Lucy, a chance to read the first Clock Island book in years is a prize worth fighting for, but the possibility of winning, selling the manuscript, and securing a better future for her and Christopher means everything. But first, Lucy must contend with the ruthless book collector's wily opponents and a distractingly handsome and grumpy Hugo Reese, illustrator of the Clock Island books and Jack's only friend. Meanwhile, Jack, the mastermind Masterson, is plotting the ultimate twist ending that could change all of their lives forever. Now, I will say, reading this, it sounds like it's going to be like a mystery-ish. It's really not. It's a contemporary, so a little bit different than the other ones on this book list. I'm trying to give you guys a variety of genres, but I did enjoy this one. This was a debut. It was pretty good for a debut here, and it kind of has like retelling of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory vibes. The next one is Halloween Creature. So the first one I have on the list is Dracula by Bram Stoker. I have not read Dracula, but I thought, why not throw in a classic. You know, just for anyone who likes classic, here's a great suggestion. It's obviously a vampire. Alright, so here's a summary for Dracula for anyone who doesn't, you know, understand what Dracula is. Although I feel like it's very popular in media and you guys probably know. Acting on behalf of his firm of solicitors, Jonathan Harker travels to Carpathian Mountains to finalize the sale of England's Carfax Abbey to Transylvanian noble Count Dracula. Little does he realize in doing so he endangers all that he loves, for Dracula is one of the undead, a centuries-old vampire who sleeps by day and stalks by night, feeding on the blood of his helpless victims. Once on English soil, the Count sets his sights on Jonathan's circle of associates, among them his beloved wife, Mina. To thwart Dracula's evil designs, Jonathan and his friends will have to accept as truth the most preposterous superstitions concerning vampires, and in the company of legendary vampire hunter Abraham von Heisling, embark on an unholy adventure for which even their worst nightmares have not prepared them. So again, this was published in 1897, so I feel like everybody already kind of knows what it's about, but like, in case you didn't, I'm kind of leaning towards one as my option because, like, I have not read Dracula. Like, I've seen depictions of it in, like, movies and stuff, but I haven't read a classic in a while. Like, I don't think I've read a classic all year, so I feel like I should pop this one in there, you know? And then the next one I have one about Ghost. And I've picked one of my favorite Ghost series of all times, which is the Haunting Danielle series. This is book 1 in it, and it's called The Ghost of Marlowe House. I read this one as, like, a last book, I think back in 2022. Like, I was just trying to get one more book in before the end of the year to, like, make it to 100 at that point. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I, like, fell in love with this series so much. I actually have a good chunk of the series. I don't have all of the books. They're roughly, like, book 36 in this series now. I currently have up to 13 on my shelf, and then this one's actually 32. And I have, like, 33 and 34 over there. So I'm in the process of buying all of them because, like, I loved it so much. Let me get into this one for you because this is a whirlwind of a series and you have to be committed to read it because, again, it's 36 books. But no worries, I am going to have a video come out in the near future where I read this series and plot everything on a timeline for you guys because at this point my brain is confused about the timeline and I'm going to plot it out for everyone. When Danielle Boatman inherits Marlowe House, she dreams of turning it into a seaside bed and breakfast. Very cute. Since she's never visited the property, Danielle's not sure what awaits her in Oregon. She certainly doesn't expect to find one of the house's previous owners still in residence. After all, the man has been dead for almost 90 years. Shouldn't he have moved on by now? I'm glad he doesn't. That's a different thing. I'm glad he has not moved on. Charming Walt Marlowe convinces Danielle the only way he can move on is if she solves the mystery of his death. Danielle soon discovers her real problem may come from the living, those who have their sights on Marlowe's house's other secrets. Again, it's a murder mystery. Like, we don't know who killed Walt, but somebody killed Walt. And, you know, I'm just on, like, the murder mystery train. And then the last one I have is, another Halloween creature, like a demon. So I picked City of Bones for this one because there are a lot of demons. Like, they'd be killing a demon in the very first chapter, and they demon hunters. So I kind of thought it was appropriate, but let's just I mean, if you haven't heard of this series, if you haven't heard of the Shadowhunter series, you're missing out. I, like, love this series so much. Clary Frey is seeing things. Vampires in Brooklyn and werewolves in Manhattan. Look, we're hitting more than one actually Halloween creature at this point. Irresistibly drawn to the Shadowhunters, a secret cadre of warriors dedicated to ridding the world of demons, Clary encounters the dark side of New York City and the dangers of forbidden love. Kind of like a beginning fantasy romance, but, like, again, lots of Halloween creatures pop up in there. Next, we have horror as a prompt, and I've picked 3 books out. I've read 2 of them, so, like, I can actually tell you that I like them. The first one is my favorite Stephen King book of all time that I've read, which is The Shining, and I've read, like, 26 of his books, but this is top 1 book, let me tell you. I love The Shining. I think this is, I mean, I don't know if this is considered a classic necessarily, but, like, it's a classic Stephen King one at the very least. Like, oh, and it's a little bit of a chunker. I do have the mass market paperback, but, like, it is a little bit chunky, so there's that. The Overlook Hotel is more than just a home away from home for the Torrance family. For Jack, Wendy, and their young son Danny, it is a place where past horrors come to light, and where those gifted with the shining do battle with their darkest evils. And it does say thriller, but it also is horror. There are a lot of horror elements in it, so literally one of my favorite books of all time. Next one I have is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This is, I haven't read all of Riley Sager's, but, like, this is one of them I have read, and I really did enjoy this one. I got this from Book of the Month, and I actually did read it. Pretty impressive of me, let me just say. Bells that ring themselves, record players that turn on and play music to empty rooms, ghosts that climb out of wardrobes. Maggie Holt doesn't believe in these things, even though they are the details of the story that made her family famous. 25 years ago, she and her parents, Yuan and Jess, moved into Banbury Hall, a rambling Victorian estate in the Vermont woods. They spent 20 days there before fleeing in the dead of night, and audio even later recounted in a horror memoir, House of Horrors. His tale of ghostly happenings and encounters with malevolent spirits became a worldwide phenomenon, rivaling the Amityville horror in popularity and skepticism. Maggie has lived her life in the shadow of her father's books, so when she inherits Banbury Hall after his death, she returns to renovate the house to prepare it for sale. However, her homecoming is anything but warm. People from the past, chronicled in House of Horrors, lurk in the shadows, and locals aren't thrilled that their small town has been made famous thanks to Maggie's father. Even more unnerving is Banbury Hall itself, a place filled with the relics from another era that hint at a history of dark deeds. As Maggie experiences strains of curses straight out of Edwin's book, she starts to wonder if he wrote what was more fact than fiction. Alternating between Maggie's uneasy homecoming and chapters from her father's book, Home Before Dark, is the story of a house with long-buried secrets and a woman's quest to uncover them, even if the truth is far more terrifying than any haunting. I picked this one because it mentions Amityville horror in it, and I'm a huge Amityville horror. I watched every single movie on it ever, and I'm kind of into the haunted house vibe. So it's a horror because stuff is happening, but this also could double for another prompt, which we're gonna find out with several books that can double as several prompts. So you can stack in this readathon. Reminder, we can stack. The next one is The Hacienda. I have not read this one, but I got it from a used book sale, so I didn't actually get it from Book of the Month, even though it is a Book of the Month copy, but I've heard so many great things about this one. Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca in this debut supernatural suspense novel. So that's kind of where, and it's kind of historical, which also caught my attention because I'm a big history junkie as well. During the overthrow of the Mexican government, Beatrice's father was executed and her home destroyed. When handsome Don Rolfaldo Soranzo proposes, Beatrice ignores her rumors surrounding his first wife's sudden demise, choosing instead to seize the security that his estate in the countryside provides. She will have her own home again, no matter the cost. Girl, that is not a good enough reason to marry someone who mysteriously had their wife die. But Hacienda San Isrozo is not the sanctuary she imagined. Rodolfo returns to work in the capital. Visions and voices invade Beatrice's sleep. The weight of invisible eyes follows her every move. Rolfaldo Juana scoffs at Beatrice's fears, but why does she refuse to enter the house at night? Why does the cook burn copal incense at the edge of the kitchen and mark the door with strange symbols? What really happened to the first Donna Soranzo? Beatrice only knows two things for certain. Something is wrong with the hacienda, and no one there will save her. Desperate for help, she clings to the youngest priest, Padre Andres, as an ally. No ordinary priest, Andres will have to rely on his skill as a witch to battle the malevolent presence haunting of the hacienda. Far from records, San Israldo may be Beatrice's doom. Very interesting, very mysterious. Sounds like a horror, you're living a horror. Can't wait to see what it's about. The next prompt is Cozy Mystery, and I love Cozy Mystery, so I have several, and I've narrowed it down to 3, so I don't overwhelm you guys, but I've narrowed it down to 3. 2 of them I've read, 1 of them I have not. So the first one I have is Murder at the Mayfair Hotel, which is by C.J. Archer. This is also a historical one, so keep in mind you can use that for another prompt here. And I picked this one up last year. It kind of takes place around New Year's Eve, which is kind of when I picked it up. So it does have that element to it, so in case you're not into that, it's riveting. It's a murder mystery. It's one of those things you're like, why are there so many mysteries and why are people not investigating this more? Granted, though, I guess it is 1899 when this first one is, so I guess we'll give them that, I guess. But let's get into this one. It was the most fashionable place to stay in London until murder made a reservation. That's what caught my attention when I was looking at this one. December 1899. After the death of her beloved grandmother, Cleopatra Fox moves into the luxury hotel owned by her estranged uncle in the hopes of putting hardship and loneliness behind her. But the poisoning of a guest on Christmas Eve throws her new life and the hotel into chaos. Cleo quickly realizes no one can be trusted, not Scotland Yard, and especially not the hotel's charming assistant manager. With the New Year's Eve ball approaching fast and the hotel's reputation hanging by a thread, Cleo must find the killer before the ball and the hotel itself are ruined. But catching a murderer proves just as difficult as navigating the hotel's hierarchy and the peculiarities of her family. Can Cleo find the killer before the new century begins? Or will somebody get away with murder? I really do like the series. I'm not completely done with it. I'm 3 or 4 books into it. It is not like the Haunting Danielle series, there aren't that many books, There's only 9, okay, guys? 2 of them have been published this year, so we're getting up there, but like I really enjoyed it. It was such a quick, easy read, and like it did leave me like hanging. The next one I have, I've heard people talk about it in sprints, so I like checked it out, and it's a cozy, and I was like, okay, I can get behind this. And it's Murder on Cape Cod by Maddie Day. A Cape Cod shop owner and her book club must find a crafty killer in this charming new series from the Agatha-nominated author of the Country Store Mystery Series. Summer is busy season for Mackenzie Mac Almeida Bicycle Shop, nestled in the quaint seaside hamlets of West Ham, Massachusetts. She's expecting an influx of tourists at Mac's bikes. Instead, she discovers the body of Jake Lacey. Girl, these mystery towns just be like finding dead people all the time, I swear. Mac can't imagine anyone stabbing the down on his luck handyman. Oh, that's so sad. However, the authorities seem to think Mac is a strong suspect after she was spotted arguing with Jake just hours before his death. Mac knows she didn't do it, but she does recognize the weapon, her brother Derek's fishing knife. Oh god dear, why does this always happen to them? Mac's only experience with murder investigations is limited to the cozy mysteries she reads with her local book group, the Cozy Capers. That's a cute name. So to clear her name, and maybe her brother's too, Mac will have to summon help from her Cozy Capers co-investigators and a library's worth of detectives' tips and tricks. For a small town, West Ham is teeming with possible killers, and this one mystery where Mac is hoping for anything but a surprise ending. This is what caught my attention, and I can feel myself going for this one for the cozy because like I haven't read it and it sounds super cute. Like I'm all about the cozy, so if you have cozy recs, please leave them in the comment. I love cozy mysteries. And the last one I have is Sprinkle with Murder by Jen McKinley. I have read this one before. It's a cute little bake shop one, you know, for anyone who wants some like sweet little treats involved with it. Melanie Cooper and Angie Delora are finally living out their dream as proud owners of the Fairy Tale Cupcakes Bakery. Who doesn't like cupcakes, you know? But their first big client is a nightmare. Ugh. She's a bridezilla who wants 500 custom cupcakes for her wedding. No. Oh my god. No, you don't need that many. When Mel stumbles upon the bride-to-be dead by a cupcake, Mel becomes the prime suspect. I mean, like, I wouldn't blame you. Like, to save themselves and their business, the ladies need to find the real murderer before the cupcake killer ices someone else. It's just, like, cute, and, like, what caught me is, like, the description, because it's so cute and cozy. Like, oh my god, look at that. And also, this series, again, isn't, like, super, super long. I mean, we are up to, like, book 16, but, you know, it's fine. And this could go for another prompt, just saying. And then the next prompt we have is Haunted Place, and we're gonna see some repeats in this part. So the first one, I'm not gonna reread you the summary, but The Shining, the hotel is haunted. Like, Jack be seeing ghost man, and so does Danny. Like, they be seeing ghosts, they be talking to ghosts. The building is haunted. The Overlook Hotel is haunted. There's a reason nobody is up there, and they have to find a new handyman every year. The next one, we've also already talked about, the ghost of Marlowe House. This is Marlowe House. The ghost lives in it. He is trapped inside of Marlowe House. He cannot leave Marlowe House. He'd be haunting his own house. It sounds like a haunted location to me. And then this last one we have not yet talked about, but like I read it last year and it was like super cute. Who doesn't like a story with a dog in it? Like there's a dog on the cover. There's a dog in it, guys. But it's called Be My Ghost. Oh, it's so cute. This is also a cozy, so you could use it for the last prompt too, guys. Maureen Dotree and her golden retriever Finn have taken possession of a charming old inn, only to discover that it's already possessed by tenants whose lease on life already ran out. Sounds like a haunted building to me. Maureen's career as a sportswear buyer hits a snag just before Halloween when the department store declares bankruptcy. Meanwhile, Finn's lost his way as a guide dog after flunking his test for being too friendly and easily distracted. Sadly, only one of them can earn unemployment, so Maureen's facing a winter of discontent in Boston when she realizes she can't afford her apartment. Yeah, I hear Boston's pretty expensive. Salvation comes when she receives a mysterious inheritance, an inn in Haven, Florida. A quaint, scenic town on the Gulf of Mexico, hidden away from the theme parks. Maureen believes it's a good place to make a fresh start with a new business venture. But she gets more than she bargained for when she finds a dead body on her property and meets some of the inn's everlasting tenants in the form of ghosts who offer their otherworldly talents in order to help her solve the mystery. She does get accused of murder. I feel like at some point all of them in Cozy Mysteries get accused of murder, and she does. And it was like super cute. And like there's a sequel to this one that I have yet to read, so like also it's super cute, can't wait to get to it. Next we have candy on the cover, and we are, you know, given some leeway with the candy part, like it can be any sweet, because actually putting candy on the cover is actually surprisingly hard, which is what, you know, kind of originally prompted me to make this recommendations video for you guys. And the first one, it doesn't have candy, but it has chocolate chip cookies, I mean, and like little Hershey like kisses, depending on what cover you find. Like, sounds like candy to me. I eat chocolate chips as candy, guys. So, but it's called Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder by Joanne Fluke, which again is a cozy, like if you guys couldn't tell, I'm really into murder mysteries and cozy murder mysteries, so no one cooks up a delectable suspense-filled mystery quite like Hannah Swenson, Joanne Fluke's dessert baking red-haired heroine who ginger snaps are as tart as her comebacks and her penchant for solving crimes, one delicious clue at a time, has made her best-selling favorite. And it all began on these pages with a bakery, a murder, and suddenly scandalous chocolate chip crunchies. And already has her handfuls trying to dodge her mother's attempts to marry her off while running the cookie jar, Lake Eden's most popular bakery. But once Ron LaSalle, the beloved delivery man from the Cozy Cow Dairy, oh my god, that sounds kind of cute, is found murdered behind her bakery with Hannah's famous chocolate chip crunchies scattered around him. Her life just can't get any worse. Determined not to let her cookies get a bad reputation, she sets out to track down a killer. But if she doesn't watch her back, Hannah's sweet life may be burned to a crisp. Like, oh. Also, this has like recipes in it, and I may low-key need to like make the recipe, you know, so like compare it to my recipe. The next one does have a chocolate bar on it. Like, if you couldn't tell, I really like chocolate, so and I picked Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Ronald Dahl. I feel like this is a classic. It's also like a quick read, and really sometimes you just need to go revisit some childhood favorites, you know. Willy Wonka's famous chocolate factory is opening at last, but only 5 lucky children will be allowed inside, and the winners are Augustus Gloop, an enormously fat boy whose hobby is eating, Veruca Salt, a spoiled rotten brat whose parents are wrapped around her little finger, Violet Beauregard, a dim-witted gum chewer with the fastest jaws around, Mike Tavie, a toy pistol-toting gangster in training, that is quite the description, who is obsessed with television, and Charlie Bucket, our hero, a boy who is honest and kind, brave and true, and good and ready for the wildest time of his life. I mean, like, everyone's seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like, if you haven't seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, what are you doing in your life, you know? Alas, I found a book with candy on it. It was very difficult, let me tell you. The last one I have has the little, like, hearts you can get for Valentine's Day on the cover. So, like, candies also. It does have cupcakes, so it is Buttercream Bump Off. This is book 2 to Sprinkle with Murder, so you could use Sprinkle with Murder with this one as well. I thought, you know, this one has some little candies on it. You know, we could use this one. And we're back with Melanie Cooper and Angie Delora, Fairy Tale Cupcakes Bakeries, gearing up for Valentine's Day. Unfortunately, someone has iced Baxter Milloway on his first date with Mel's mother. Oops. Now Mom's a suspect, and Mel and Angie need to find time around frosting to dig into the man's shady past and discover who served him his just desserts. There we go, you know. Candy on the cover. And then we have our last prompt, which is historical. This one has a little bit more leeway, you know, with it being historical. I do have 2 repeat books. We have The Hacienda, which, because this one is historical with the Mexican War where it takes place, and then the other one that's a repeat on this list is Murder at the Mayfair Hotel. The new one I have for this prompt that I have not mentioned yet is The London Science Society by Sarah Penner. This is from Book of the Month. It is from March of 2023, embarrassing, but I read The Lost Apothecary by her and really loved it. That could also count for historical here, but like the first one was so good, and by this author that I read, that I like had to pick up her next one when it came on Book of the Month, even though I have yet to read it. Amid the shrouded parlors of Victorian London, 2 daring women hunt for the truth and justice and the perilous art of conjuring the dead. 1873. At an abandoned chateau on the outskirts of Paris, a dark seance is about to take place, led by acclaimed spiritualist Baudon de l'Air. Known worldwide for her talent in conjuring the spirits of murder victims to ascertain the identities of the people who killed them, she is highly sought after by widows and investigators alike. Lena Wilkes has come to Paris to find answers about her sister's death, but to do so, she must embrace the unknown and overcome her own logic-driven bias against the occult. While Dyne is beckoned to England to solve a high-profile murder, Lena accompanies her as an understudy. But as the women team up with the powerful men of London's exclusive seance society to solve the mystery, they begin to suspect that they are not merely out to solve a crime, but perhaps entangled in one themselves. So yes, historical here. Very historical. I thought it was appropriate. and I thought this would finally give me the push to read some of my book of the months. If I just put like several book of the months I haven't read on here, like I will get the push to read them, you know? But that concludes our recommendations for the Haunted Library Libraryathon edition. And let me know if you are wanting to read any of these books, or if you have any other recommendations that I missed, especially for some of those harder prompts like Candy on the Cover. Like really, that was probably the hardest one to find books for. But let me know if there's anything that you're thinking about reading. Bye!